Liliana, hi, welcome to Bold Works.
Thank you, Fer. Really happy to be here.
Thank you for giving us some time and sharing some wisdom with us. And let me start this interview with one icebreaker. How would you define yourself in 2 words?
Wow, I think I could say resilience. I think that's pretty much the summary of my entire life till now. And probably the other one I would say connector. I think that consider that to be my superpower, and I really like connecting with people, creating networks, and helping people through communities.
Oh, so let me say that for some of the episodes, I already know the woman that's in front of me. But in this case, I would really like to share with everyone how we know each other because I got contacted by your cousin. He's a former colleague of mine, and he told me like, look, and he's a guy, but he's a really, really, really nice guy. And he told me like, look, I know that you're trying to do good stuff for women, and I have a cousin, and she's doing good stuff for other people. I have no idea what is she doing, but I think that you guys
You
should
guys should
sit
talk.
together and talk.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just went online, LinkedIn, ting ting, Liliana, do you have time? And that's how
Yeah,
we
I
know
love
each
it.
other.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what can I say? First of all, I mean, I love my cousin. I know, how passionate he is about like this type of topics, and yeah, a big shout out to him because that's the type of guys that we need, right? So yeah, really, really nice, and really, really excited to chat today. Yeah, really.
You mentioned resilience, and you mentioned a connector, and you mentioned communities. So, as you know, here in both works, I try to bring people, I try to bring women together. So, I believe in the power of community. But I also like to discuss topics like your professional career. What about working? It's something that it was promised to us in a way, and now the rules are changing while we're playing. Um, and that's the topic. How are new generations and how are like generations like ours navigating like these changes in the ways how we work, what's expected from work, how can we deal with this, but how can it come that you also know about this topic? Maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I can share a little bit more about myself because where I got there is basically as a result of kind of like my professional career. So I'm originally from Mexico, so I'm also Mexican, like yourself. And I studied there my bachelor degree, started my career in finance, starting in Mexico, then in Brazil. Then I did my MBA in the UK. So I'm actually based in the UK. So um, I've been living here for 11 years now. So after finishing my MBA, I've been working in finance, specifically in the payments industry, for almost 9 years. So throughout that period, I realized that kind of navigating a career can mean very different things in different cultural contexts, in different being a woman, being someone that comes from abroad, and kind of like different circumstances, journeys that I had, people that I met that actually led me to now transitioning into a more kind of education related career. So I am currently managing a couple of community initiatives, and these are based on early careers. So people that are just starting their careers and they want to navigate their future, really, right? So I think for me it became quite crucial and quite urgent to think about this, and there's like many reasons. So I could say one, that is the problem that, as you mentioned, right, we were told, do a degree, go to the job market, get a job and be happy, and that's simply not true, right? So that's one, the current AI transformation, right? So that's super disruptive. Education system in general, right? Like what we learned in school doesn't necessarily translate to what is required at a job. and the generational divide. And then from a Gen Z standpoint, I'm very concerned on the pressures that they're being through and they are going through at the moment, which is, again, right, not having the skills required for the future work, and but at the same time entry level jobs are being compressed, and also there is some mental health kind of situation that has to be taken into consideration. So it's a big problem, and I'm just really kind of interested on tackling this, and that's why I decided to move towards that.
It's really interesting because I can see from one side, it's really not just big problem, but really complex one. So you mentioned different levels, different layers of really complex systems that interact, and then we are the result of that. So from one side, I am really, like, I do agree with you that the systems are falling short. We are not, like, things are not evolving at the same time. Technology is not evolving at the same time as even the way how we legislate
Yeah,
technology. So there are many things that are going in different directions. Everything is moving, and I think realizing and understanding that we are living in a moment of chaos, and we need to navigate and learn how to coexist with this chaos. That's one of the things that, for me, the first thing that blow my mind, because I was already told, like, my entire life I was told, you have to behave this, you will expect that. So it was
exactly.
really easy, but that's not life. How did you started, like, these initiatives? Because, like, how do you do that? How do you connect with them? And yeah, what was the trigger of this?
I think the main trigger was when I started working as a people leader in the UK. So again, right, like I mentioned, it has to do with my career. Um, and I always been in finance, but a big part of my job has been working with people, helping people, develop people, like coaching them, mentoring them, etc. So when I came to the UK, I observed many things, right? So one of those is like the cultural changes when it comes to like work environment, but most importantly, I started observing differences among people, right? The ones that were like average performers and the ones that were top performers. And I came to the realization that the top performers were not the ones that were following the rules that you mentioned, right? Do this, do that, follow the rules, go, kind of like go up the corporate ladder. But the ones that were questioning the status quo, they were the ones that questioning why am I doing this, setting boundaries, and almost being a little bit rebellious, right? So I was just very fascinated about that, and I kind of adopted that on myself, and that's where my own career started growing, because I learned that I needed to have networks to be able to expand my impact, that I needed to be a little bit more vocal, and it was
Got it.
not enough to just do my job and be on siloed, right? So I managed to kind of immerse myself within that and discover the power of, again, like building relationships, emotional intelligence, and asking questions and challenge your own boss, right? Which, for example, in Latin American cultures is not very common, right? In fact, it's discouraged.
It's even
So
punished sometimes, right?
it's even punished, right? And you're
Yeah.
scared of doing it. So I think that for me that was one of the main learners, if not the main learning that I had. And by mentoring people, like following and people's career, I just decided like something has to be done because the potential is there,
Yeah.
but it's hidden, and is we need to create the triggers and the environment and the systems to actually for that to happen. So this was even before all the hype in AI and all the transformation. It was just like an incumbent problem, right? Like there are people that perform really well are the ones that keep getting promotions, but there are others that have the same potential, but it's not
Achieve the same.
achieved the same way. So that was kind of like the main tree, and I was always been very passionate about that. But then more recently, what I realized is that, well, there are many people like me that experience that, but AI has just exploded that, and it just made this a scale. So I was mentioning, right, about the youth unemployment. So I don't know if you saw the news, but recently the numbers got released about the UK, and youth unemployment is at its highest in the last 5 years. It's at 16%. So this is becoming a crisis in the country, right? And about 1 million of people between 16 and 24 are not studying, not working, or not in training. So that's very concerning, and this is not unique to the UK, right? I see a similar problem in Latin America, or even in Southeast Asia. So to me, that was a trigger. Like, this is not any longer something related
Yeah.
to a small community, or the fact that I'm from Mexico, or the fact that
No,
I'm
it's
a woman.
a symptom that
It's
it's like
mhm,
scaling.
exactly that, exactly that. So
Well,
yeah, that was the trigger, honestly. And as you said, it's very complex, and it's a big problem that has to be tackled.
okay. How are you tackling it? Maybe you can share with us about that.
Yeah, of course. So, as I mentioned, like the base of my initiatives is communities. So I do believe in the power of community, especially now. So I run a couple of initiatives. So I started in Latin America. Um, and I'm about to launch one in the UK. But the idea is to bring people together, especially the youth population, to connect, to have as kind of like psychologically safe environment where they can challenge, learn together, and or just simply like practice certain skills. So how does this look like? We like run some challenges, some projects together. It's a very early stage, but something that I've noticed is that beyond the projects or the outcome that we've been doing, is more about the self-realization, and that space where they can thrive or learn something about themselves. So yeah, this at this stage is like it's like small communities, mainly with Gen Zs on them. And yeah, I'm just kind of like growing as I speak. And that's the idea, just using the power of community to build that kind of comfort and navigate uncertainty as a community, right? Because that's something that is creating a lot of anxiety as well. Like, how do we navigate if we don't know how tomorrow is going to look like, right? And by community, people can create those scenarios, think about how to use their skills and what is actually needed in the future.
So the idea is from one side trying to educate these generations on, okay, this is what's going on, this is what's happening around, these are the changes, and the other one it's like this is how you can do it, and you can do it with us here together, so you don't feel this is an isolated thing. We are all in this together. So
Exactly.
let's make something out. Okay, that's amazing. What have you had, like, have you identified any pattern until now?
Um, so I think, well, something to maybe mention is that the core purpose of these communities is human skills, right? And I can talk about human skills for hours. But I think the pattern that I've seen is that, or I think what I see a lot is that there are a lot of initiatives out there that talk about upskilling courses, etc., especially on AI upskilling. But when it comes to human skills, there is a lot of information and a lot of flags that this is going to be the future. You need to get better at human skills. But young people are not getting the opportunity to practice those skills. So I think what I've seen is that recognition of how important it is to practice, right? And it's like learning how to ride a bike, right? I mean, I think it's very evident that to ride a bike, you won't be able to do it by YouTube or like reading a book. You need to go out, fall a few times, cry, feel embarrassed or whatever, but and you build that confidence, and then you start like riding it yourself. So that's something that we are not there yet in terms of human skills. So I think what I've been seeing is that frustration, of okay, you or the society is telling me I need to have these skills, but I'm not being given the opportunity to practice them, as opposed to just reading about them or talk to someone and be told what to do. It's like that practice is not there yet at scale.
Well, it's really interesting. I've been discussing with few other women about like these soft skills, like this,
Mhm.
like you usually when you go to like corporate world, you are being like your hard skills and your soft skills,
Mhm.
and those soft skills they are usually tend to be seen as um, not a disadvantage, but not something that you would prioritize in your development, right? And nowadays, this is what you're mentioning. So not just like the recognition, but the execution, because I do agree with you. Also, like learning how to drive until you build the confidence to just manage the entire, because driving, it's chaos all around. You just need to learn how to navigate, how to learn the signals of communication, what's going on, what can I foresee coming. Those are the type of skills that you are seeing. Okay, let's build on top of those.
Exactly, exactly. And I'll give you an example because it's also, I think for some people it's very difficult to visualize like why are these gonna be so important, right? And one area that I'm also passionate about is to think about the future, right? Like it's not only what's happening, but what will happen in the future, right? So um, there are consultants looking at the future, helping companies, but that's something that each individual can do, like reading at signals and kind of like foresee what's gonna happen. So one of the signals that it's out there, for example, is voice, right? So we all know that companies like 11 Labs are doing like incredibly well, but that's a signal, right? That means that we are actually going to type less in the future. We are right now we are doing everything WhatsApp as an example, but more and more we are going to start just sending voice notes or using voice in general. So what skill do you need to do that? And while you delegate a lot of stuff from technology, it's communication, right? So
Yeah.
you need to be very succinct in what you want to do, very clear, and that's something that not many people are been practicing, right? But it's there. It's like how will technology will enable certain things, but we need to develop at the same time other skills to make it effective.
Maybe another example, well, like the
Hmm.
pre-stage, of the one that you shared, but how to prompt. So
Exactly.
when I
Exactly.
explain to people, like maybe nowadays it's a bit more common, but like a few months ago, it was like people were amazed, like, oh, this can do that. No, that doesn't work that way. You were the one explaining. So even how to, there were like courses to become a prompt engineer, like,
Hmm.
and nowadays, as you mentioned, as we speak. So my husband told me the other day, do you know how they are coding nowadays? So you have like different README files, and then you just go throughout the README files. And I was like, no, is that,
Wow.
it's impressive. It's really changing every single day. And again, if I extrapolate this to the working force, everything is changing. Even if I go to LinkedIn nowadays, roles have a different name now. They are
Exactly.
making roles,
Yes.
creating roles. It's a really high pace of how working environments are changing and the impact that this has on all of us.
Yeah, 100%. I think to me that's something I've also been observing, right? You go to LinkedIn and just the number of changes in the job descriptions is incredible, right? And from AI engineer, prompt engineering, or even outside that, right? Like even roles like organizational change, and then
Yeah.
now companies need people to come and design an organization that embeds agents, right? Like that's completely new and it's not going anywhere, right? So yeah, it's incredible. It's just going incredibly fast. Yeah.
So I'm really interested because nowadays for me the what we are saying, or like the thesis of this, is all of those skills that help in like that make you who you are, but also like to act, to have an agency. So these criteria, like having your own peace of mind and saying, being vocal about it, knowing how to communicate, all of those things, that's agency, are the things that we need to ask people to develop.
Yeah.
That's what we are saying.
Yeah, pretty much. And to me, like, I, based on experience on some of the projects that I've done with the students, this was in Mexico as an example, right? um Intentionally, I told them, use AI for whatever you want, like, just to understand, one, how they interacted with the technology, but also where the human skills are coming from, right? And one of the cases we were working on is, an AI, that it's gonna decide who gets a loan or not, right? Like assessing credit worthiness. And basically, the conclusion is an AI is going to give us an answer in 2 to 5 minutes, or, how much to lend to certain people or certain companies at a specific interest rate or whatever. But AI will never be able to challenge if the data that was used was biased or is creating some discrimination towards a minority community, right? So all those type of cases kind of like create a lot of, or at least in that project, create a lot of awareness of, like, why it's important to develop those skills, right? And
Yeah.
that's why critical thinking is important, right? Like, is the technology doing good, like, really, right? Or is this a risk or not? Like, how can we anticipate a problem?
Yeah.
Because I feel, in a way, there has been some negativity, right, on thinking, okay, if AI is gonna be doing everything for me, like, that's fine, right? The risk is that we are delegating everything to AI, right? Instead of us taking that agency and take decisions and driving and influence. Yeah.
No, or like there are going to be a few having
Mhm.
agency, and we all will be executing whatever they want, you know. So for
Exactly.
me, that's also like a really like a red flag.
Yeah.
And so we already discussed about the system. We already discussed about like the need. We already discussed about how community, or we started a discussion about how community and the power of community. You multiple times mentioned the power of community. I also believe in the power of community. In my personal view of community, I think that for because I analyze more female communities
Hmm. Hmm.
more than the community itself. I see that there are some like rituals, um, even the language that you use. How do you call each other? All of those things are like the actual things that really make a human commit to a community goal. Um, what is what you have seen throughout like your own initiatives?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting question. One, because I think, especially the Gen Z community, is very different, right? I think, in fact, that was one of the main realizations for me starting building this. The expectation is different. The things that they value are different, right? And I'll give you an example. Only 2% of Gen Zs actually feel they are aligned with the values of the companies they are working on. So, to start with, you need to give that kind of psychological safe environment, as I said, right? So, what has been working, and I truly believe in, is that instead of saying, oh, you guys need to do this, or more experience than you, also you need to do that, is giving that voice to them and understand what they want, what's important to them, and then go from there, right? Like, giving that space, because it's important to listen to them. So, when you think about rituals, right? So, what something that we do is we share signals of the future, and they are the ones identifying those signals, and that creates some discussion around, wow, should I be concerned about this? Or, I saw that now a girl in China married a chatbot. Like, what does that mean for a future, right? So that really creates not only like a good topic of discussion, but it's also agency and kind of like that sense of urgency on, is that going to come close to us or not. But there is a very exciting part of it, which is, okay, this is a signal, maybe I can do a business based on that, right? and,
Yeah.
and then create and kind of like that kind of excitement about building something that is good for the world, but that can be also sustainable economically, right? And that's another signal, right? Like the um, influencers, creators, solopreneurs, that's a trend that is, again, not gonna go anywhere, right? Like, and that's where we see that kind of appetite for people to start their own businesses and using vibe coding to solve a problem, right? So that has been key, kind of just having that open forum, making sure everyone's contributing to something that is interesting for the community, sharing news. Sometimes it's not good news, right? Especially when it comes to the state of the world at the moment, but
Yeah.
it's just like a good feeling, right? To be like, okay, we are all in sync.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think like the foundation behind the concept of community and how can we use it in the favor of like and how can it serve our mission. I think that that's something really nice.
Yeah.
Um, Liliana, let me ask you something. Have you recognized any pattern or any information regarding women in what you are doing nowadays? Because you mentioned more like you understand nowadays like the world in a different way, so more in terms of generations or in terms of like working, not working, and studying. But when it comes to gender, have you recognized something there?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are many things, and like if you ask me, I think it has to be tackled differently. Even though, I focus more on Gen Zs, but even within that, there are things that work differently, right? Um, I think the key area that I have identified is that, I don't know if you read this book, The Anxious Generation, or have
Oh
heard
yeah.
about it. So that's something I could confirm through my research, through my work, etc. Right? And unfortunately, women have been more impacted by this kind
Mm.
of change on social media, etc. So just to recap, like very quickly, right? The Gen Zs were the first one with social media during their adolescence. So we probably were the last generation that spent
Without.
adolescence without, right?
Yeah.
So that, to start with, it's a big difference. Adolescence is hard anyways, right?
Oof.
So you and I remember that pretty well. So imagine that for a girl. So they're exposed to social media comparison. You need to look like this. You need to use this product. So there is like
Standards
constant pressure
changing constantly every week.
every week, every week. So the levels of anxiety for women have been higher
Yeah.
post social media coming in compared to guys. There is also a problem with men, but there is a gap, right? So to me, that has been like a big realization. I think when it comes to building community, that's where psychological safety has been
Yeah.
so important, especially for women. And honestly, when talking to them or outreaching, I actually see even more interest from girls, because if you are offering psychological safety, they would feel that, okay, this is my tribe, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's the pattern that I've seen for sure. And then when it comes to kind of like interest or skills, I would say it's pretty much the same. I think, you know just things to celebrate, like people, like women doing more stuff in tech, that's improving, right? So I think that there are a few things to recognize as well.
Oh, that's really nice. But I do think that understanding those pieces of information, I think that for sure creates a different experience, and that's what also like these generations really truly appreciate in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see, because there are like so many topics, but then I also don't really know where to start. I was thinking when I was like discussing about this topic about like a toolbox. Okay, what is what we need? What do we need to survive what's going on? Because things are changing, and we just need to learn how to live with this. So I thought about like a metaphor of like a flashlight, a compass, a lighter here. How do you see it? Do you see it in a certain way? Because of course it's a constant thing and everything is changing, so the entire method I think it will evolve as the time evolves. But until now, how do you see it? And yeah, what's your vision on that?
But first of all, I absolutely love the concept. So I probably need to have a conversation with you to steal it. No, I love it. I think it's exactly that, right? Is that recognition that, um, first of all, skills are going to evolve. And for me, they probably, if there is one skill that we all need to master, is lifelong learning, right? So learning to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And what that means is very different compared to how it used to be, right? Again, a lot of us, many of us follow this formula of, I finish uni, I'm supposed to get this job, grow on that job, and life is beautiful. I buy a house and I have a family, etc., etc. We know that's not enough, and things have changed. So in the future, or now already, the ones that are gonna thrive are the ones that are gonna keep learning, right? And this is regardless of age. Like, I've seen people 60 plus learning how to use AI, and they're amazing, right? And they're doing businesses because they have incredible ideas, and now they are using AI to actually deploy
Execute.
it, as an example. Um, so that's kind of like something that you need to master, right? Like lifelong learning. And within that, they are just tools, right? I think things like emotional intelligence, critical thinking, problem solving, and adaptability, just you need to be there, like as you said, right? Like, as that toolbox, you have to be ready, because you will need it in certain different and certain circumstances, and you just need to keep sharpening them in any situation, right? So I see it in a very, very similar way. I think the variant that I would say is that this is completely different to what we were told from an traditional education, that you need to be exactly this kind of format of mold, and you're going to be successful. To me, um, it's very important to start by recognizing what's your superpower and build from there,
Yeah.
right? And it happened to me. So I learned that I love building community, and that's my superpower. And maybe I can build on that, and then others I can continue learning and growing. But as long as I have something, kind of my USP, that will take me far, right? That's what we still getting wrong, which is trying to be exactly as a mold that we think is gonna take us to a successful career.
I really think that these two specific topics, the learning part and for me it was the learning to, like, the yeah, learning to unlearn what I used to learn and learn again. It was between my ego, my stubbornness, my why do I have to do this at my
Uh-huh.
age. It takes some it's a really high entrance barrier, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one, um the superpower, I was like following something like a reel or something on social media the other
Mm-hmm.
day, and the lady was saying like, don't build on your dreams, build on your talents, you know. And
Exactly.
I really recognize that, because we are not trying to, it's not like in the 70s, like the American dream, like we are not in that moment. But we're also not in the startup area where, like, and that's how I wanted to also like to mention that nowadays everyone, the idea that was sold that just special magic people could do business and be creative and do stuff, that's not there anymore. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
can do it, but we all
Mm-hmm.
doubt it so much that we are
Mm-hmm.
a bit, holding us back. I think that when we
Exactly.
recognize that we do have the talent and the tools are out there, and if you learn to unlearn and learn again, because it will change tomorrow, but you will just do it, then building on the right stuff will for sure bring you to the right port in terms of like
Oh,
life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's key, actually, right? Because you made me recall something that I think a lot of people, especially young people at this stage, are like, I have this dream and I need to get there, and as a result of that, also that external pressure, right? But it doesn't need to be like that, right? I think especially when you're in your 20s, what a beautiful time to screw it up, like
For
it's just
sure.
amazing. And go try things, fail or whatever, and that's beautiful, right? Because that's the best time to build that adaptability, etc. And then something else will come later. Um, and that's the period where you will identify as well, like what is your superpower or your skills, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you didn't know and you're actually really good at influencing people, and then it turns out that you're gonna become the best sales man or women in ever, but you never identify it, right? So that's why it's important, just try things.
I agree. Like, yeah, yeah. Liliana, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for taking this problem seriously and doing something, because I think that's what makes change in the world. And thank you for being here with us and sharing.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was great being here. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I can spend hours talking about this. I think it's a big problem to tackle, but I also want to see it with positive eyes. And I think, I have a lot of hope in the new generation. They are bringing very strong values. And I just think we need to give them the right tools for them to be able to do what they really want to do in the world. So yeah, I think it's a big problem, but when it's a big problem, it means that it's a big opportunity as well.
For sure. So, if you're listening to this episode and you know someone within this age range, or if you know a mom of someone within this range of age, share the episode, tell them to subscribe and to contact Liliana. And Liliana, what's the name? So I'm gonna also like get the linked and everything of the community that you are having. But I also know that you will be opening more and more challenges, so maybe people can also like follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the community in Latin America is Lifelong Learners LATAM. Um, there's gonna be another one, but I'm gonna keep it as a secret for now. So follow me, reach out to me. So that's coming very soon. And similarly in the UK, there is something being piloted at the moment. So again, reach out to me, and if you wanna be part as well as co-creator, I'll be really happy to have you on board. So yeah, reach out to me anytime. Always happy to have a chat.
Super, Liliana. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
No, thanks to you, Fer. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.
Bye.